Hello all and welcome, and I'm the MGTOW philosopher, and in this video I would like to discuss economics from the point of view of a moron. Now, I was browsing videos and I saw this short clip from the Donahue show way back in the 1970s, and I said to myself, oh, this is very interesting. It has Milton Friedman on there. Let's see what Donahue has to say. And of course, we all know who Donahue is. He's the simp cuck moron who back in the late 70s and 80s had that horrific talk show where he pandered to women and beat down men, and he was basically a communist who had absolutely no understanding of how economics works. And in this video, he goes into a number of different fallacies that the left has about economics, which are all totally false. And Milton Friedman, of course, owns him, as only Milton Friedman can. But I wanted to comment myself on some of the ridiculous nonsense that Donahue says. So let's begin, shall we?
When you see around the globe the maldistribution of wealth...
Okay, let's stop right there. Wealth is not distributed, okay? This is Economics 101. This is the most important lesson. If you can learn any lessons as a rightist, as a righty, as a conservative, as somebody who just thinks of themselves, wealth is not distributed. Wealth is created. People create wealth. All the little greenbacks are, they're just representations of wealth. They are not actually wealth themselves. You create wealth through your actions, through the services that you provide, and through the goods that you sell, and for the productive additive value that you put into the system. And all that adds wealth to the country. And that's one of the reasons we're able to print so much monopoly money, is because we're such a productive country that we can't afford to do that, because the amount of wealth we actually have is so massive. Of course, it'll eventually end. It'll just take longer because we're so wealthy and so productive. But this moron thinks that wealth is distributed. He thinks it's a pie. He thinks that somewhere there's this giant pie and every American is scooping their hand in and taking out a bite. Yummy, yummy, and they're getting all their bite. But he believes that some Americans are taking more than their fair share. Some Americans are greedy and they're bullying and beating up other Americans and bullying their way into the front of the line, and they're bringing giant knapsacks, and they're greedily grabbing up huge chunks of pie and throwing it in their bag and depriving other Americans of their fair share of the pie. Donahue is a moron.
The desperate plight of millions of people in underdeveloped countries.
Ah, yes, we feel so bad about the underdeveloped countries that we don't do anything about it. Except run these shill charities where 90% of the money donated to the charity goes to the charity to pay for the charity, to pay for upkeep, to pay for overhead, to pay for employees. Yeah, you want to be charitable? Yeah, you give to a charity. You're giving charity to the people that work there. Yeah, we really care so much about these people. Give me a fucking break, pal. We know you don't give a shit. Are you taking your money and giving it to some poor African person? No. And by the way, this stuff about the poor in their plight in these other countries, please. Okay, look. Europe, okay, had similar plights. Say you go back 500, 600, 700 years. Europe was in bad shape. Lots of poor people. Almost everybody was a fucking farmer. Everybody was living in these fucking huts with straw roofs and, you know, brick and mortar, well, brick and mud walls if they were lucky, or just a wattle, which would mean interwoven wood with some shed and fucking mud slapped onto it. I mean, we lived horribly. You know what happened? We evolved. We struggled. Nobody got us out of that shit. We got ourselves out of that shit. So people thinking that all human beings are equivalent in their evolutionary progress in regards to their surroundings are wrong. Some humans have evolved further quicker, okay? It's just that simple. And nobody helped us, and if somebody had helped us, it would have enabled us in our misery, and we would have stayed in that misery. We wouldn't have worked to claw our way out of that misery. So you cannot help them, because if you help them, that will just lengthen the amount of time that they spend in their miserable conditions. They have to help themselves. They have to evolve their way out of these situations. They have to grow as people. They have to learn. They have to become more productive on their own. The moment that you start helping them the moment that you start trying to alleviate their suffering because you're a bleeding heart liberal, you're taking away the very environment that is needed to spurn them on to be more successful, to motivate them to get out of that environment. Otherwise, you're just creating a cottage industry of poor people who will always need your help and charities that we're going to always be giving money to help them, which is what we have now.
When you see so few haves and so many have-nots, you see the greed and the concentration of power within. Did you ever have a moment of doubt about capitalism?
He's a moron. He's a moron, the haves and the have-nots. You want to know why people have and people don't have? Okay, intelligence, hard work, perseverance, determination. There is a difference in races, okay? There is a strong correlation between IQ and earning power, number one. There is no gene for determination. So even a dumb poor person can achieve a modicum of success in life if they're just not stupid enough to have 27 kids and end up living in a grass fucking hut all their lives instead of getting some kind of education, gaining some kind of skills, and becoming productive and successful before they get married and decide to have kids. So a lot of what's happening in the third world is just people making bad choices, okay? Bad choices. And a lot of it's because they're not evolved enough intellectually to understand the consequences of their actions. And that might sound cruel, that might sound racist, but unfortunately that's a fact. Do some study into global IQs based on country, based on race. There have been so many studies done on this. I cannot count them. You haven't heard of them because you haven't looked for them, and the mainstream media will not report them. But it is a reality, is it a fact? If you can't handle it, maybe you should go hide in your safe space.
And whether greed's a good idea to run on?
Well, first of all, tell me, is there some society you know that doesn't run on greed? You think Russia doesn't run on greed? You think China doesn't run on greed?
And by the way, Donahue made a big salary, but he's supposedly not greedy, right? Because he's preaching the leftist truth. Greed is good, people. Anything that motivates you to create, to make, to get profit is good, okay?
What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's only the other fellow who's greedy. The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests.
Bingo, right. But that's not what Donahue likes. No, that's horrible. That's greedy. Living for yourself. Oh, no, I'm a stupid brainwashed Christian. I have to live for other people and sacrifice myself. I don't see him sacrificing very much, though.
The great achievements of civilization have not come from government bureaus. Einstein didn't construct his theory under order from a bureaucrat.
Right. Einstein had freedom to pursue his own self-interest, and his self-interests were in line with the things that he loved, he enjoyed, and this allowed him to achieve maximum creativity.
Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry that way.
Yeah, also Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry to make no money. He did it to make money. Do you understand that, you dummy Donahue, you? He did it to make money, pal.
In the only cases in which the masses have escaped from the kind of grinding poverty you're talking about, the only cases in recorded history are where they have had capitalism and largely free trade. If you want to know where the masses are worst off, it's exactly in the kinds of societies that depart from that. So that the record of history is absolutely crystal clear, that there is no alternative way so far discovered of improving the lot of the ordinary people that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by a free enterprise system.
But it seems to reward not virtue as much as ability to manipulate the system.
Virtue! Can you believe this shit? Even back then in the 70s, this idiot is talking about virtue. What do you mean virtue, pal? What do you consider virtue, huh? So, okay, you're going to take money out of your pocket and give it to some dopehead who's saying, give me money, I'm poor and homeless, so I'm pathetic, so you should help me. And then he goes and shoots himself up with drugs, and then he dies. Yeah, you're so virtuous. The kind of virtue you're talking about, you freaking pinhead moron, you, is you feeling good about you. Oh, I helped a homeless man today. I gave him some money. Yeah, he probably went and spent it on Thunderbird and got drunk, or he spent it on drugs and hyped himself up with heroin or PCP or whatever, but I feel better about me. Or I gave money to some fake, bogus fucking charity, And they kept 90% of it, and they sent less than 10% over there to Zimbabwe or whatever else that helped some poor girl eat. I didn't really actually help anybody, but I didn't teach anybody to fish so that they could fish for themselves. I've just made them lifetime dependents on charity. But I'm virtuous, and I feel better about myself, so woohoo!
And what does reward virtue? You think a communist commissar rewards virtue? You think a Hitler rewards virtue? You think, excuse me, if you'll pardon me, do you think American presidents reward virtue?
Yes, right. There is no reward for virtue except for self-reward and public adoration and hand clapping. It's a way of sending societal cues to other people to say that I am virtuous, I am wonderful, clap for me. You should feel that I'm a good human being. I've let you know that I'm a good human being. And that's really why I'm doing all this stuff. It's not because I want to help people. It's just because I want to feel good. I'm probably the most selfish person of all. You wanting to make money, no, that's selfish. That's real selfish. But me, all I'm caring about is how I feel. I just want to feel good about me, and I want everybody else to like me so much. And that's the only reason I'm giving, not because I want to help somebody. No. I just want to feel good. Yeah, meanwhile, you're destroying the fucking world by enabling everybody and making them lifetime victims. But hey, at least you feel better about yourself, don't you?
Do they choose their appointees on the basis of the virtue of the people appointed or on the basis of their political clout? Is it really true that political self-interest is nobler somehow than economic self-interest? You know, I think you're taking a lot of things for granted. And just tell me where in the world you find these angels who are going to organize society for us.
Right, and invariably what happens is you have a monster come into power because everything is about feelings. And of course, when you're all immersed in feelings, you tend not to look at facts or use critical thinking. So the worst possible people that you could imagine get into power. And of course, once they're in power, it's too late for you.
Well, I don't even trust you to do that.
So that was a little interesting video. I thought it was very amusing about Milton Friedman talking about the essential evils of communism and how economics really work. It's not a zero-sum game, people. One person doing better doesn't mean another person does worse. And one person doing worse doesn't mean another person is doing better. It's not a zero-sum game. There's not one pie. Everybody has their own pie and makes their own pie. And if they don't have a pie, it's because they didn't work to get it, not because somebody else stole it from them. I'm the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.